Welcome to this week's episode of Granger Defined. This week we are looking at a special effort Granger High School is making to contribute to students' education. So we're going to be talking about Granger Reads, and kind of spearheading that effort is one of our English teachers, Mary Ward. So thank you for coming on to the show.
You're welcome.
So we wanted to start off and just give you a few questions about Granger Reads, starting with what is it? What is the Granger Reads campaign?
Well, Granger Reads is a grassroots program that a bunch of teachers started because we noticed a need for students to read more, and not read in class, not read their textbooks, but recreationally read, because that is what I call the pill of smart and happy, is recreational reading. So we wanted to just media blitz, flood the school with all sorts of information and contests and fun ideas to get these kids reading recreationally more.
Okay, now you're talking a lot about recreational reading. In fact, you used, I guess, a key phrase for you, the magic pill of happiness.
And smartness.
And smartness,
Yes.
Right? So what are the benefits of recreational reading? Why is there so much focus on getting kids to read, not just inside the classroom, but outside the classroom? Because that's what this program really is. Teachers are going to continue having their students read inside class just like they would normally, but Granger Reads is about getting students outside of school to open up a book instead of, play Flappy Bird.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Flappy Bird.
So,
I think Flappy Bird's done a lot of damage.
Oh, okay. So what's the benefits then of recreational reading?
Well, that's the beauty of recreational reading, is it solves, in my world, it almost solves every single problem. So if you are reading recreationally, whether you are in third grade or if you are 89 years old, you are becoming a more proficient reader. And when you are a more proficient reader, just everything expands in your life. If you're a high school student and you're a proficient reader, that means you're going to be doing better at math and science. You are going to be doing better in your English class, obviously. You are going to have a better chance of graduating, and you're going to graduate with honors. And when you do graduate, you're more likely to go to college. And even if you don't go to college, you are still more likely to get a better paying job and live above a poverty level than kids who don't read outside of class. So it helps everything. It helps your vocabulary, it helps your social life, it helps your everything.
So now this initiative is unique to Granger High School. I don't know of any other educational a school anyway, that's doing some type of, there are lots of reading initiatives, but not like this, where there's social media efforts, there's contests, there's videos. Every month there's something new for students. So what was kind of the underlying reason that Granger High School decided to launch this program and do a Granger Reads initiative?
Well, as teachers, we noticed that the kids were not reading enough outside of school. And it's one thing to make your kids do homework and to give them homework reading, but that's not really what this is about.
Sure.
And we noticed that our students weren't doing as well in their math and science classes, and they weren't doing as well on the tests as we wanted them to do, the standardized tests. The graduation rates aren't where we want them to be, and the answer to all of those across the board is helping them become better recreational readers. So it really was the one answer that could solve a multitude of problems in the building.
So reading's the cure.
Reading is the cure for everything.
Start reading and things will get better.
Exactly.
And you've had a lot of widespread support. This started kind of, from what I understand, in the English department, but now you have teachers, math teachers, science teachers, PE teachers, health teachers, all getting involved in that. And what has that been unique for you, or have there been a lot of efforts you've worked with as a high school teacher where the entire school's come together?
Well, that's the beauty of this, it was a group of teachers that got together across all disciplines, and we first had to identify that this isn't about reading your science textbook, and it's not about reading your history textbook. That's a whole nother issue. This is about getting kids to read outside of school for pleasure, okay? So once we got everybody on board with that, the next step was to support these other curriculums in talking to their students about reading outside of class. So the first thing that we did was we put up big posters facing the hallway that shows what every single teacher in this building is reading for pleasure, for recreation.
Okay.
So, you don't have the history teacher saying, oh, I'm reading the chapter that's due tomorrow. No, that's not at all what they're reading. They're reading, Pride and Prejudice, I don't know. So that the kids, while they're walking down the hallways, they're seeing that not only are we preaching to them about reading recreationally, that we do it ourselves. And
okay.
And so we're encouraging these teachers to talk to their kids as much as they can about, here's why I read, here's what I read, here's what I get out of it, and here's what I'm able to do with my life because of it.
Sure. Now, kind of in transition, a big focus of the Granger Reads campaign is that students don't really read recreationally anymore because of a lot of technological advancements that have taken place. We talked about Flappy Bird earlier, and we mentioned that. What would you say to a student to convince them to stop playing on their iPhone or their Android tablet and to start reading? What would be your sales pitch to that student?
You know, I do the sales pitch probably every single day in my class.
Okay, wonderful.
And depending on my mood
Okay.
is how aggressive it is. But my quick saying is always that, you know, Flappy Bird is making you stupid and reading's trying to make you smart. That, you know, they usually just laugh at me when I say that and continue playing their Flappy Bird or looking at Facebook. But then I get into a little more detail and I explain to them that language and being able to see language and read it in its most beautiful form, which is, you know, literature and novels and even nonfiction, that's where we're getting this vocabulary development. And that's where we're starting to recognize what language is supposed to look like. When all of your reading is Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and, you know, all that other media, you're not getting good reading. So often my students are like, oh, but I'm reading, you know, Facebook. Okay, but your friends can't spell and they're not using commas and they're not describing anything and it's not the same. It's just simply not the same. So I always tell them, like, if you can divide your attention, you know, read for 15 minutes and then play Flappy Bird for 15 minutes. At least then, you know, we're getting somewhere.
Sure. Well, you know, what was interesting is we were preparing kind of this interview. I looked up I just searched a few things and I said, all right, I wonder how much, you know, people that have been influential thinkers in history have read. Mm-hmm. Winston Churchill, it is estimated, read over 5,000 books in his life. President Theodore Roosevelt was said to have speed read 2 to 3 books. Wow. And that's kind of every single day during his presidency. So that's kind of the message that you're echoing. If you want to be successful, if you want to do well, read recreationally.
Yes.
Now, we always try and throw in some fun questions and some serious questions. So we have 2 more questions for you before we finish. The first question is, if you could organize a celebrity boxing match and you could pull literary characters or authors, who would be involved in that boxing match?
That's a hard one because I have a lot of literary characters that I would love to see get beat up.
Okay. I wasn't ready for that.
Well,
good.
You know, I always tell my students, you don't have to necessarily like the people you're reading about. You know, that teaches you about life as well, how to get along with people.
Sure.
I would love to see a celebrity boxing match between Captain Ahab from Moby Dick.
All right.
And
You're not
Dostoevsky.
going to say it well. Okay, Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, from Crime and Punishment, because I think they're both just wicked. And I would love to see if he could, you know, hack the whale up with his little butcher knife and see how that works.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah.
So there's the boxing match.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last question is it's a more serious question. We open this question up to every individual we invite onto the show. If you could give any message to the Granger community, and that message could be as simple as, you know, show up every day with an apple for your teacher, or it could be as serious as try your hardest and things will work out. What message would you give to the Granger community?
My one message would be have books in the house.
Have books in the house.
Have books in the house. Go to a dollar store, go to the DI, go to the library. They have sales where you can buy books for 25 cents. The more books you can have in your house, just sitting around, the better chance your kid has of picking one up and reading it recreationally. Take your kid to the library, get a library card. Just, you know, pack your house full of books.
Okay, well, thank you. There you have it. Reading is the magic pill of happiness and smartness. Before we close, we just wanted to remind everyone listening to follow us on Twitter and to follow the Granger Reads Twitter account, which is part of the social media initiative.
Yep, at Granger Reads.
Okay, and that'll be there, as well as you can like our Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thanks for watching this week. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.